We were in Cold War that was darn close to a hot war with the Russians.
They had been launching some rockets, and ours too often had been blowing up on the launch pad. And that was sort of the background to what happened then in '57 when they sent up Sputnik.
Right then, I think we all inwardly resolved that that wasn't going to last. We were going to do something about it.
It was just a faint beep, a radio beacon, coming from a shiny little orb circling the Earth. In 1957, Sputnik signaled the beginning of the space age, and the United States was behind. Our first successful answer to Sputnik came with the launch of the Explorer 1 satellite, and within the year, the formation of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration.
Explorer 1 had science instruments on it, and so it really marks the first use of space for scientific exploration.
We have one of the most challenging assignments that has ever been given to modern man. We will be preparing for the day when manned flight goes into space.
Alan Shepard's flight was a fantastic moment in the history of NASA. I think back on that and I watch him come out of that van on the Redstone pad and look up at that rocket in that silver suit he had on, wondering himself what the hell he was doing there.
Roger, liftoff and the clock has started. This is Freedom 7.
This nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
That was all heady stuff, and we were all, you know, go man, go.
Some of the doctors were concerned, for instance, that when you're in zero G for a while, for several hours, they're afraid your eyes might change shape.
Roger, zero G, and I feel fine. Capsule is turning around. Oh, that view is tremendous.
This is the dawn.
It truly was the age of Aquarius in the 60s. The mood around us was always electric. The press revered the astronauts, and it revered those of us in the front of the program.
Communication satellites, of course, came into being, and a lot of other, neat things have happened as a result of that technology push.
There's the drop. Before it returns to Earth again, the X-15 may fly some 60 miles straight up at nearly 4,000 miles per hour.
The country was trying to build a supersonic transport, at least to do some research and build some prototypes. So by trying to study the flow fields about these vehicles, trying to compute the sonic booms and their propagation to the ground was a very interesting and challenging problem.
3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Start. Liftoff.
Gemini was the program between Mercury, the single-seater in Earth orbit, and Apollo, the three-seater all the way to the moon.
Gemini 12, Houston, Capcom, new EVA record, beautiful job.
The fire on the pad was a traumatic event. It ripped us apart, to be perfectly honest with you. It was a terrible day.
5 weeks later, as the backup crew, we inherited the first manned Apollo mission, which turned out to be Apollo 7. So we were quite proud of the fact that we had a triumph out of a disaster.
On Apollo 8, when we rotated the spacecraft and saw for the very first time the far side of the moon, only 60 miles below, and we were like three school kids looking into a candy store window.
The moon is essentially gray, no color.
I just thought there were so many unknowns that I would have given us about a 50-50 chance of being the first flight to land and return someone safely.
Okay, engine stop. We copy you down, Eagle. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
I think it was the biggest event from an aviation point of view and probably from a scientific point of view that happened in the 20th century.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Our first steps on the moon were the culmination of efforts put forth by a host of people who simply refused to believe it could not be done. It was an accomplishment of human ingenuity and tenacity. Apollo 11 was the end of the race to the moon, an important milestone in our exploration of space.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here. It looks to me you're looking out the hatch that we are venting something.
That series of events started the saga of Apollo 13. The trust that existed between crew and ground was absolute because it takes trust to make split-second decisions.
The whole panel is blown out, almost from the base to the engine. Apollo 13 is descending. This is recovery, and your chutes look good.
And welcome home.
Charlie, set form. Oh, Stephen. Come on out here and give me a salute.
We not only did a lot of work on the moon, but we had a good time.
Hippity hop, over hill and hill.
You know you're only going to come that way once in your life.
This has got to be one of the most proud moments of my life, I guarantee you.
I can read the writing on the wall. Kodachrome, give us those nice bright colors. Give us the greens of summers. Makes you think all the words of a sunny day. Oh yeah.
We saw the fragments around Skylab go over us, and I thought, oh brother, there's been an accident in the Skylab launch.
And Jack Lausma was the best EVA guy that I've ever met. Lo and behold, he goes out there and fools around with it a while, puts it all together, and it worked great.
And it went on to a brilliant scientific discovery, and it gave us some forward momentum in the science that continues right now till today.
Glad to see you.
Let me call to express my very great admiration for your hard work, your total dedication in preparing for this first joint flight.
Mars showed seasonal variations that suggested something was alive. And I think that was the basis for creating Viking. When we got down and found out how dry and arid and barren the place really was, came as a bit of a surprise.
When we flew by Neptune, people were standing in line at night at planetariums in order to be able to see the images when Voyager was flying by these worlds.
Time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into